Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum everyone and welcome to Notes from Nurhdyhaz. I really hope that you have been keeping well and safe, insyaAllah. So welcome to another inspiration episode where I get my friends to come along on my podcast to share their stories, things that fuels their creativity and spirituality, in which that I believe there'll be something that you'll benefit from their life's journeys, insyaAllah. So Alhamdulillah, for today's episode, I have Anis Suraya with me. Assalamualaikum, Anis.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you, Ustazah?
I'm good also, Alhamdulillah. It's actually close to 6:30 here in Singapore, but you're not in Malaysia, right?
Yes, I am currently living in London. So right now it's about 10:30. Yeah, I'm about to start my day.
Yes, we were talking about that a little bit. Like Anis is only starting her day, and then I'm slowly ending my day. But really, really grateful to have Anis here with us on the podcast, and I am really, really looking forward to listen to your stories, inshallah. So maybe for a start, I'll get Anis to introduce herself. Maybe what you would like the listeners to know about you, some of the things that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Ustazah. Assalamualaikum, everyone. My name is Anis Suraya, and I am currently living in London. I just graduated from a master's degree in digital marketing, and that is why I am still here in London. On the side, I like to create content on Instagram, on TikTok, and hopefully, inshallah, by this year, I hope to create more content online.
Inshallah. You mentioned that you just graduated from digital marketing masters. Does that mean that now you're in London, you look to work in London and to stay there for a bit?
Yes, I am looking to work here in London, and that's why when it comes to I am doing like a little bit of like volunteering and side gigs when it comes to like content creation, videography, just to build up my current portfolio, inshallah.
How different it is to be in London as opposed to Malaysia?
Yes, as a side note as well for fellow audience, yes, I am a Malaysian from Subang Jaya, Selangor. There's a lot of difference I would see when it comes to like living in London and when it comes to living in Malaysia, and of course, aside from like the cost of living, but definitely the environment, getting to know people. There are a lot of creative people here in London. They are very open when it comes to expressing themselves, and I think that is why it fuels my creativity. It encourages me to be much more active in content creation, and also at the same time, as someone who loves like books, arts, history, London is definitely the city for that. I get to do a lot of things that is really close to my interests. There are a lot of bookstores, art galleries, museums. So it's really fun for someone like me.
I really love that. To be honest, on a personal level, I have been following Anis on literally her social media platform. I've seen her exploring London and then all of the bookstores and basically the content that she's doing while she's there. Really, really love it. So if you're not following, please follow Anis to learn more about her content, inshallah. And yes, as you mentioned, we will look forward to what is in store for you for 2024's content, inshallah. So speaking about content creation, speaking about books, speaking about the things that you love, one thing or the first thing that I want to ask you on today's episode is to learn more about the creative side of you. Creativity is really important, right, in the pursuits of what we do, and especially when we talk about content curation, we really need creativity to be in place. So I'm just wondering if you can share with us what really fuels your creativity, because you've been creating content when you were in Malaysia and then now you're in London, you're still doing content as well. So what fuels you?
I would say on a personal level, it's really just my environment that fuels my creativity. Like for instance, definitely when I'm in London, my sense of inspiration is different a little bit now because like when I'm in London, different things that inspires me. For instance, the reading culture here, the history, the art culture. So it's really that sometimes I just go out for a stroll or like maybe exploring a new part of the city, and that fuels me to create content and to share what I find really interesting to my friends on Instagram. So it's really just me paying attention to my environment, the new things that catches my attention. And it has always been, who I am as well as a person, is that whatever that catches my attention that I think is really interesting, I just feel like I want to share with the people around me. And if even if like there's no Instagram per se, right? Like I would share the things that I find really interesting to people in my life, the people that are close to me. For instance, my family, my friends. So it just really I have always been that kind of person. But now that we are living in the age of social media, and I have Instagram and TikTok, these platforms become my sort of like my digital diary of me keeping memories and sharing with people around me, so that they can be a part of my life as well. And alhamdulillah, with the things that I've shared online, people are enjoying them as well. So it's really about sharing interesting things around me, and also inshallah the things that bring joy to other people as well. Yeah.
All right, that really is beautiful. I think you mentioned greatly about how your environment influences your creativity. And then you also mentioned, paying attention to new things, the things that you see all around you. And I think that involves greatly the act of mindfulness, because if you're not mindful, then we're not able to actually exercise that. And I really find that to be very much relatable, because we can keep walking on the same path. But if we are not mindful on that path, we will definitely miss out on the beautiful things that we can actually capture, right, on that particular path. And you also mentioned that it's also about sharing things that you love, sharing your findings. And I really love that creativity does not stop within you, but it's always looking out for ways to extend it to other people so that they can also feel the experience, although they are not, at the same country as you. Since, your environment fuels you, have you been in an environment that does not fuel your creativity? And what did you do about it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we've all been there, where we feel like we just got caught up with life, and you found yourself not feeling motivated, or it could be because your creativity is not being fueled, right? So in that kind of situation, sometimes I feel like discipline sometimes might have to come in, like, and just like what you said, Ustazah, being mindful of where you are in life. Like sometimes there would come to a point where you realize that you are not being motivated, your creativity is not being fueled. So you try to find ways to get back to yourself in a way. So, and you can do that with the littlest things, for instance, like how I just mentioned, just go out for a stroll, to get yourself out there, get a breath of fresh air, just to people watching, do the little things first, so that because who knows that you might get inspired, you might get motivated again, just to see like a new environment in front of you. Yeah. And because I do remember that there is a quote that sometimes discipline comes first before motivation. So yeah, sometimes like self push has to be done, but inshallah, like when you try to do the most little things, like taking a walk, inshallah you might get a much more motivation after that. And it's always those kind of things that when I when I come back home, that I have the motivation to maybe make videos, create content. I feel like there's something for me to share with the people around me, just from taking a walk. And it doesn't have to be like a big gesture, a big routine. You can always start little, and but it's always the most littlest things that can influence you and impact you in the biggest way, inshallah.
Beautiful. I really, really love that. I think while mindfulness may be one of the topics that we are discussing about, I'm also reminded of, with mindfulness comes being intentional as well. And I think that is what you have been doing as you take your strolls and, trying to find motivation in your environment. Speaking about strolling, I'm wondering if there is a difference for you in terms of walking around London by yourself and walking with friends, and if that has any impact to the way you produce content and your creativity as well.
Oh yeah, because sometimes like when I take a walk or take a stroll, one of the things that makes it, I guess, easier, because because I'm currently living in London, because London is quite a walkable city. So if anything, if I don't walk around in a city area, or maybe like a city side, or I would be walking at a park, because every neighborhood in London there must be a public park, so that really helps as well. So you get to be in touch with nature even though you're in a city. But also at the same time, there would be moments where you decided to take a walk by yourself because you have been surrounded by people because of your work that you want to be in the moment by yourself and to recollect and to reflect and take a breather, just to reflect muhasabah on the days and on the things that you have done so far for the week. But also there will be moments where I would want to take a walk with a friend, for a company, for that boost of motivation. Because sometimes on that walk and with a friend, you can have like a different or a new perspective on a particular matter or topic that we would sometimes, talk about while we walk. It's always equally motivating and refreshing as well because you have another perspective, like another um motivation source together with you. And it's always sometimes with the people that you surround yourself with that becomes your source of creativity. And I think that's also the case for me.
I think you have beautifully summarized why you are here on this episode. With a friend, right? You can exchange ideas, you can exchange certain things that you have been pondering or reflecting upon. And I think when you are so used to be on your own, it is good to also reach out, right? So that we can get new perspectives on a lot of things. At the end of the day, it's always to reconvene to our own thoughts, our own processes, and see what works for us, inshallah. So you beautifully mentioned about reflection, you mentioned about muhasabah, and those are really big and important components in our faith, which has been, taught by the Prophet ﷺ, and something that he does literally all the time. So speaking about that, I'm wondering if there is a certain matter that fuels your spirituality, especially that you are currently in this line of digital marketing, and then you are where you are at today, and then with you creating content, meeting with a lot of people, what continues to fuel your spirituality, and how do you ensure that your spirituality is always in check?
When it comes to that question, I think I'm going back to what I mentioned as well, where discipline comes before motivation, and it is also a part of being mindful as well. Like I will always try to be mindful of my spiritual routine, making sure that every day I am intact with my iman, insyaAllah. And also when it comes to life in general, because I feel like Islam is also this drive when it comes to the way of living, because this is also something that I learned while taking my master's degree, is that my lecturer used to say that whatever that we put out there when it comes to content creation, make sure that we put something of value. So I always try to put that in my life. Whatever that I do, I try to make sure that the things that I do gives value to other people as well. So when it comes to my spirituality, to making sure what fuels my spirituality is that, of course, I think about Allah, because whatever the things that I do, um, I try to not expect anything from people, but my only expectations are only with Allah. Because sometimes, for instance, if I want to try to do good for my friends. I try to not expect anything from them, but I expect only good things from Allah, because I think that's the only source of strength, which is Allah. And I try to only go back to Him rather than expecting too much from people, because at the end of the day, all of my source of strength, the motivation, all of my rizki all comes from Allah. And because of that as well, I try to be mindful when it comes to my job, because of when it comes to my work, interacting with people, because it's all about hablum minallah, hablum minannas, right? Yeah, so it all goes back to Allah. No matter what I do, from the way I talk, from the way I act, from the way I dress, it's all about the pleasing the one and only Allah.
Beautiful, mashallah. I think I caught a few things from your sharing, and I really love the first part where you mentioned about your spiritual routine. I think in today's time, we all have our morning routines, our night routines, our skincare routines, but our worship also may consider it to be a routine, right? That we want to build upon. And it's in the same way how when we focus on our routines in morning, it allows us to start our day well, and then when we focus our routines in the night, that it allows us to end our day well as well. So that is the first part. Second one is you mentioned about how faith is a component where it really enhances the way you live. Yes, we continue to pursue, right, all of the things that we are doing in terms of our job, in terms of our school. But when we incorporate faith in our day to day, it will bring value to the things that we do, and of course, give meaning, because human beings are meaning making machines where we are greatly dependent on doing the things that brings meaning into our lives. And the moment something does not bring meaning into our lives, we struggle to continue on that journey, or we can also shut off, right? And just continue with the momentum as long as we can. So that would be the second one. And the third point you mentioned about being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I really love that you pointed out about the different aspects of how you can be mindful of Allah in your day to day, even in the way that you speak, in the way that you bring yourself, in the way that you dress. Being mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just in the ritual acts of worship that we do, but literally how we live our lives. So thank you so much for sharing that. I am also just wondering, we all have our own struggles, we all have our own battles. There will always be this source of inspiration that we will always go back to and hold on to allow us to continue on this journey. So I'm wondering if you have like a specific quote or Quranic verse or narration of the Prophet that continues to inspire you, that you will continue to hold on to it, especially when things are getting difficult.
Yeah, at the moment, I think one of the verse in the Quran that really resonates, that speaks to me, that I try to hold on to is from Surah Al-Qasas, the verse 24. Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir. Yeah, so it's like I think is about when the Prophet Musa prays to Allah that I'm in dire need of all of your goodness, and I have been reciting and practicing that verse, that dua in my life, because I feel like it's all about, yeah, because just like how I mentioned earlier, is that my source of strength and motivation. I seek all of that from Allah, and Allah is also the source of goodness. So I try to do that in my spiritual routine, always seeking for strength and motivation, good things from Allah, because He's the only source of goodness, and He's the only source of goodness that I rely on to. So that is also the verse that I try to practice every day. It makes you hopeful as well, because when you understand that Allah is the source of all greatness and all goodness, no matter what happens in your life, like it will always work out at the end, because I learned to be husnuzon with Allah, try to think of good things, because Allah is only comprises of all good things. He never wants to punish his servants. Everything that happens to us always have hikmah, always have good meanings, only for our betterment, inshallah. So I think that verse, Surah Al-Qasas, really resonates with me, and I try to hold on to, no matter how tough things are right now, because everything that comes from Allah must be good things. I try to be husnuzan with Allah always. Yes.
MashaAllah, I really love that you picked up that verse and that surah as well. I think there are certain verses in the Quran where a lot of us gravitate to, but I would say that Surah Al-Qasas verse 24 is one that I think if you seek knowledge, you learn, or you attend classes, you'll begin to pick up on these things. It's not like, something that you see randomly and then it becomes your source of inspiration. And I really love how you mapped that out in terms of how you apply it in your day to day. And beautifully, when we take a look at that verse, as you mentioned, we're drawing strength from Allah. We are literally drawing everything from Allah. And at the same time, that verse also tells us that it is us literally crying out for help to Allah. Like, Ya Allah, whatever it is that you're going to send me, I want that. and whatever that you're going to send down to me is something that is good, and I will accept it, I will embrace it, and I know that this will be good for my journey. And I think a lot of times when we meet dua and when we ask Allah, yes, it's good for us to be specific when we are dealing with a couple of things, but I think there will be times, right, when we don't know what to ask. Like, we don't know what we are in need of at this moment in time, but we want to get over something, or we want to go through something, or maybe we might be, in a difficult situation for a very long time. So I really, really feel that, for those who are listening, this verse, as Anis mentioned, is one that is really, really useful for you when you are making dua to Allah, when you feel stuck, when you don't know what to do. But of course, at the end of the day, it's what Anis mentioned. It's always drawing everything from Allah, including all of that which you need and all of your strengths as well. So thank you so much, Anis, for sharing that. I think it's a reminder for me, first and foremost, at this moment in time. Alhamdulillah. And I think with that, if you didn't notice, time has passed and we're actually down to the end of our episode for today. But I think there's so much that we have learned from you. I think something that I've learned a lot from you as well is on the idea of discipline before motivation. Really love that. And maybe to kickstart that discipline is to get people to learn more about your content as well. So I'm wondering if you can share with us where people can find you on the different social media platforms, and if there is, anything that you're working on that you'd like them to look out for, then you can also share that as well.
Yeah, sure. If you would like to find me on Instagram, especially, you can find me at the Anis Manis. Yeah, that's a silly little name that I put. Yeah, that you can find me the Anis Manis, Anis Suraya on Instagram, and on TikTok you can find me at Live with Anis. And yeah, we can interact through Instagram and TikTok.
Okay, so she's also on YouTube, everybody. So please begin to subscribe. I have subscribed to her YouTube, FYI. So if you're not following, if you're not subscribing, then you're missing out. So inshallah, you will benefit from all of the wholesome content that Anis does on her platform as well. With that, we have come to the end. Thank you so much, Anis, for being present here today, for sharing with us all of the things that you cherish and that you value as well. But before we wrap up, if there is one thing, one message that you like to tell all of the listeners or perhaps people in the world, what would that be?
I hope that this can give hope to the people that are listening right now, is that if you feel like you don't know what to ask or you're stuck in life, always believe as well that Allah knows best. Allah always wants to give better, the best for you. Like you might feel like your prayers are not getting answered, but always husnul zain and believe that just like the verse 24 so Al-Qasas, is that Allah knows what is the best for you, and the good things come with time. So I hope, everyone can stay hopeful no matter what.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah. I really hope that everybody will continue to benefit from all of the work that Anis is doing. And at the same time, we also wish all the best for Anis's pursuits in London, especially that you have just graduated. So I think there's literally a great journey ahead of you. As you mentioned, time will allow it to unfold, but we continue to have good thoughts towards the plans of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah. Thank you so much, everyone. If you're tuning in down to this very second, I really, really appreciate it. And I hope for you to join me in the upcoming episodes where, inshallah, I will get more friends on board to share with us their life stories, inshallah. So take care, everyone. Have a good one. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.